Hello, this is Fiona Pratt with Applied Software. Welcome to our webinar today. Today we're going to talk about Autodesk A360 Collaboration for Revit, and joining me is Mike Massey, Senior Application Specialist. This webinar is brought to you by Live Lab Learning, which is a subsidiary of Academic Corporation, a wholly owned applied software company created to provide world-class training. Throughout our presentation, we encourage you to interact with us and the others by typing in your questions and comments. We will read them at the question time, and so just familiarize yourself with the question panel. The webinar will be recorded, and it'll be available for you to view on the YouTube channel. You can go to YouTube and search Live Lab Learning, and we have a wide collection of webinars we've done already. And you can also try looking for us on Facebook and like our page and keep up to date with all the webinars that we do. Mike, let's talk about our upcoming events. Applied Software has events in a large geographic area. Here's a list of 3. We're actually going to have 2 pages, but a meeting in Delaware, BIM and Beer. In Texas, BIM and Beer. An Architecture Executive Roundtable in Tampa, Florida. The next page, Mike. Revit and Building Design Suite 2016. That will be done as a webinar. Getting Connected, September 1st. And then desktop subscriptions. Mike, I think the next slide is perhaps introducing you. Yes, it is. So I'll speak briefly about Mike. He's a senior AEC application specialist at Applied Software, has over 20 years of experience in the industry. His background is architecture and working on projects. He's been a repeat speaker at Autodesk University, RTC, which is the Revit conference, and AIA events. He's contributed to Autodesk official training courseware. Mike is also certified as Revit Certified Professional and Autodesk Revit Implementation Certified Expert, Autodesk Consultative Methodology Certification, Autodesk MEP Systems Engineering Specialization, and Autodesk Fabrication Specialization Certification. And for the architects joining us today, the fact that Mike is extremely well versed in MEP systems has been very beneficial because we're seeing so many architects and MEPs and contractors, working together with these 3D softwares and the BIM. Mike, I think that's probably the end of our introduction. What's your next slide?
I think you got it. I think we're ready to go.
Okay. Well, I will put myself on mute. I'm going to watch the questions that come in. And I know that this A360 team and collaboration for Revit is extremely exciting. I think I heard about it early December last year. And I've got a couple of different architect clients who are using it. I'm based out of Birmingham, Alabama. So in Alabama and Mississippi, we're seeing this product pick up. So appreciate you sharing the news with everyone.
Okay, sounds great. Thanks for the introduction. So again, my name is Mike Massey, and I'm glad to be here today talking about A360 team and also A360 collaboration for Revit. I'm going to kind of break this presentation into 2 parts because really we're talking about 2 different products. We're talking about a product called A360 Team and then the A360 Collaboration for Revit. So I'm going to begin by talking about Team and then move into Collaboration for Revit, because Collaboration for Revit, basically it's a product by itself, but it also includes Team. And so it's kind of, you get it when you sign up for Collaboration for Revit. You get that, both that and Team. So I'll talk about both of those. So we'll start off talking about the A360 Team product. And basically, this product is a web-based product that you establish a hub on the internet, and you can invite people to your hub, your project members, and basically it's a place that you can share information back and forth. You can also view files that are posted up there, so whether it's Revit files or Word files or whatever files you want to post up there, everybody can have access to that that's on the project team. And there's also a great search engine that's built into the product that it will search inside of documents for keywords that you may be looking for Again, this is a web-based portal that will allow you to invite your team members to it to share information about your project in there. So let's kind of dive into this and talk about how you kind of access the project and how the interface works once you get into the A360 team. Once you log in and create your project, you'll have, I guess your starting page will be your dashboard. And once you go into your dashboard, it's kind of divided up into different sections. The main section, the first section, you kind of see what's happening in all your projects, and so it's kind of just a snapshot of who uploaded what and who's changed what and who's done what, as far as just the general activity that's happened on your project. The number 2 circle up there is also talking about the search engine. Like I said, it's a very powerful search engine that will actually search for keywords inside of documents. And then you also have an easy button over there just to upload documents or create files or whatever you want to do in there as far as uploading or creating files. So it's a fairly simple web interface that you can get into and just kind of see what's happening on your dashboard. Once you get into your project, you also will have the ability to create and invite people as far as seeing your project members. Each of these project members can have different roles as far as what they can do and what they cannot do inside the project. There's not really a limit that I know of. I don't think there's a limit as far as how many project members you can invite. I think it's unlimited as far as the number of members that you can invite there. And again, it's just going to keep track of your activity and the recent data as far as recent data column over there. It's just showing you what files have been uploaded recently and just keeps a running list of all the files that's been uploaded there. And to get into the actual data part of the portal, once you pick on that, you can kind of create folder structures in there and kind of divide files up with folder structures if you need to. You can dive into those folders and see the individual files in there. Basic operations, you can copy the files, you can download the files or move them or open the files here in the web portal. If you do open a Revit file inside the portal, you will be able to see the Revit model. So this is a great tool, especially for the ones that may be involved in your project that do not have Revit installed. They can actually open up this RVT file, this Revit file, in this web portal and zoom and pan and do all kinds of things inside this web portal as far as looking at the model itself. You can also upload actual sheets in here so they can have access to the sheets as well as the 3D models to look at and review and kind of mark up if they need to. So it's got some great viewing tools in there. Connecting the entire team in here, I guess if you kind of sum this up, if you look at your projects today, there are a lot of people that's involved in your projects. You've got designers and engineers and different types of people, maybe occupants, vendors, owners, all these different players that are involved on the project. And they're all producing different types of documents, whether it's CAD files or plans or designs or models or renderings or all these different types of files that all these different players are going to be working with. And then they're trying to solve, as far as communicating these files back and forth and communicating with their team, they're using different methods as far as doing emails or making phone calls or having in-person meetings or there's all these different types of tools that we can use to communicate back and forth. Whereas A360 Team kind of takes all this and wraps it all up in one web portal that will allow you to handle all your communications and your, I guess, your coordination for your project throughout the whole team, everybody involved in the team in one central place there. So that's kind of what the web portal is for. Let me just now kind of jump over and show you live kind of what the web portal looks like and just kind of walk through a few things in there. So I'm going to tab over to my internet. I've already got my project open, and let me just kind of back up first of all and just kind of show you that first of all you can have more than one project. And so if I go to my project page here, it's going to list out all the projects that I have active right now that I'm part of, that I've been invited to, or that I created one. So let me just dive into one of these projects in here, and this is going to take me to that first page here as far as seeing that interface here. And you can kind of customize this. I kind of put a picture up here just to kind of make it look nice as far as the logo of the picture. But you can see here my project members, who's involved in this. You can see the recent activity as far as who's done what, the recent files that's been uploaded. If I want to invite somebody else, I've got an invite button here, I've got an upload button here, different things like that. As far as looking at the actual data that's on this portal, If I go to the data section over here, I will see some files in here. I've got some Revit files listed here. I've also got a rendering folder, so I can open up the rendering folder and see these JPEG images as far as looking at these different renderings that I have here. If I just click on it, I can see the rendering here, so I get a nice picture of the rendering as far as what it looks like there. If I go back and open up one of the Revit files and click on one of the Revit files, like I said, this is great. If you do not have Revit, you're going to have an opportunity to see it. So let me just kind of click on this architectural model and open up the browser that comes inside of this portal. It does bring in the entire 3D model. This is not a DWF or PDF or anything like that. This is the live Revit. This is a RVT file that I'm able to open up in this web portal. And again, once it gets open, I can kind of zoom in and look at this and start slicing and dicing it. I got some walk tools down here, some pan tools, different things like that. If I want to make some comments over here, I can start making comments and tracking some changes in there as far as asking questions or things like that. So just different ways, you can spin this around, whatever you want to do as far as panning around and looking at this. So like I said, it's a great way for people to have access to the model that maybe doesn't have Revit installed on their computer. As far as the people section in here, this is where I do my invitations, and I can see my project members and see what rights they have in there as far as being a moderator or just a project member. I can also invite other people in here. I can just go to the invited and just type in their email address and invite them to this portal. I can also see maybe on my request in here, maybe people that I've invited but they haven't accepted yet. So I can see what requests are out there that people haven't responded to. It also has a built-in calendar for the project, and this calendar could be used for the project team to maybe establish key milestones for the project or meetings or whatever, that everybody has access to this project calendar that you can kind of control in there. And also it has a wiki help section in here. And the wiki section is not really a help section, but this wiki will allow you to put documents in here that maybe are changing or that you need to make sure that everybody has the most current document. You can create a wiki page in here that will allow people to always have the latest and greatest version of that document, whatever it is. I've seen people use this for maybe their implementation plan as far as who's supposed to be doing what and kind of keeping that implementation plan up to date. They put it in here as a wiki document so everybody has access to that. But overall, like I said, this is a web portal that you can share information back and forth with your project team. And this is one side of collaboration for Revit as well. When I'm fixing to go into collaboration for Revit, and when I do this, you get this as well. So I don't want you to get confused about team and collaboration. It's two different products, but this comes with the collaboration for Revit once you have that hooked up and running. So let me just kind of go back to my slideshow. Just kind of pause. Fiona, do we have any questions, anything about team before we move into the next section? I don't see any questions. Fiona, if you have any questions, just let me know. But I'll
Mike,
continue.
we do have one question.
Okay.
Somebody asked if the team can work with Revit 2016. The way the question was worded, perhaps they've used the team with Revit 2015, and they're wondering if it's working with the 2016 version.
I've got it working on mine. I didn't really have to do anything with Team. Now, for collaboration for Revit, it is a different install for 2016 as far as the plugin. As far as Team, just the web portal, it works fine with 2016. I don't have any problems with it. I've uploaded 2016 files, and it didn't require any kind of change or anything like that as far as seeing those files and working with them.
Okay, that was the only question we have now. Thanks.
Okay. Well, let's move into then the next product, the collaboration for Revit. This is a purchase product. This is a product for purchase that you need to purchase and install. Once you purchase it, they will add it to this entitlement to your Autodesk user account, and once it's on your account, you can then begin using it. As far as the setting it up and testing it, there is a trial period program that you can install. I think it's a 30-day trial. But one thing about this that's a little bit confusing, or at least it was for me at the beginning, is that as you work in here as far as using this collaboration for Revit, everybody that's on the team will have to have their own entitlement. Whereas the team, the other product, the team web portal, you can invite anybody you want to the team web portal page. They don't have to purchase anything or anything like that. You can invite anybody. But if you're trying to use the collaboration for Revit tools, each person on the team that needs to have access to the Revit add-ins will need to have that entitlement added to their Autodesk account. Let me just kind of talk about this in general first, and just talk about how we access the project data and kind of what it does. If you're familiar with how Revit works with work sharing, if you're working on a Revit project and you need to have more than one person working on that project, you will enable work sharing, and typically that will create a central file, and that central file will reside on your network, and then each user will come along and create a copy of that and work on their local copies. So I think most people are kind of familiar with that workflow as far as how it works in a single office. As we move into this collaboration for Revit tool, basically what it does is it moves your model, moves your central model, your main file, it moves it out to the cloud, and it resides on the internet. And once it's out on the internet, we can have users come in and create their local copies off this file that's out on the internet. So it kind of works the same way as having the file local on your local server. It's just residing out on the network, and when you're syncing and saving your changes back to the central model, it's syncing and saving it back to the cloud. So everybody's hooked up to this cloud version of the model that's now syncing back and forth and seeing their changes as they work on it. So it's kind of the same workflow. It's just moving that central model out to the cloud is the big difference. So it allows you to have multi-firm concurrent authoring. So we can have a firm in, Washington D.C. with a model, with somebody working on the model, and at the same time somebody in Atlanta working on the same model, and it will tell you instantly if somebody starts working on something that somebody else is working on. It will tell you, just like it does locally, that you cannot modify that object because somebody else is not working on it. You can check out work sets just like you can locally. So it works exactly the same way. As far as the speed of it, working in it, it's fine. There was really not any speed difference in there. We'll talk about how it saves in just a second. But the biggest thing I think about this is there's no IT setup. If you've tried to do this before using the product called Revit Server, there's a lot of IT setup that's got to be set up before those two firms can work on the same model together. Basically, you got to build a pipe that connects those two offices that they're hooked up together. So, there's no IT setup at all when you turn this on. You just basically click the button and turn it on, and then you're up and running. It also gives you direct accessibility to other cloud services that are out there. For example, the BIM 360 Glue, or the rendering, or other viewing tools, or other analysis tools. It's just going to open up this web portal so that you can have direct access to these other tools that are out there. So how does it work? How does it save? The key thing is that it's basically every time you save or synchronize, it is synchronizing a cached copy. So it's only synchronizing the things that have changed since the last time you synchronized, and so that's going to speed up the process. Once you open a model and have your local copy created, it's going to, every time you go back and reopen that, it's going to check to see if there's any changes and download just the changes since the last time you synced. So it does speed it up as far as opening and synchronizing there, because it's just doing the cached copy is all it's changing there. So it's not doing the entire file every time. As far as where it puts the local copy, it does put it in your temporary files. You can do a save as if you want to save as the Revit model, so you can have it opened up outside of the the central model if you need to or want to. But basically, you're working on these temporary cache local copies that are out there. But when you synchronize, it's saving it back out to the cloud so everybody on the team can see those changes. So that's another big part of Revit, collaboration for Revit is the communication tool that it comes with. So outside of being able to sync and save on the internet, it gives you this communication tool. There's been a lot of ways that I guess people have tried to communicate on a Revit project before. This is a picture of somebody creating a view inside of Revit just with some notes in here of to-do lists and things like that to try to communicate to the project team what's going on in their project. This is one way to try to communicate, I guess. Also, in addition to this, we've got all different types of internet tools out there to communicate back and forth. We've got Skype and Facebook and Link and all these different ways that we can communicate. But there's really nothing that's project specific out there that will allow you to communicate specifically with your project team. So that's what this adds. It adds a communicator palette inside of Revit that will allow you to see, first of all, who's working on the project and see who's in there working on it. It will also allow you to communicate with those people through a chat session inside of Revit. You can also do screenshots if you want to communicate back and forth and specifically do a screenshot and show them what you're talking about. You can also see who's saved and synchronized last. Or you can see if somebody's synchronizing right now. You can kind of see the status of the syncs in there as well. So it's giving you a constant feed in here of activity that's going on in your project as you're working in it. So if we look at this and kind of combine it into 3 steps, basically it gives you, first of all, access to your project data. No matter where you're located, everybody working in different buildings, different cities, different states can all access the same model and work on it at the same time. You also get that enhanced communicator tool that's inside of Revit, and finally it just allows you to connect the entire team so everybody's working consistently. So that's kind of the nutshell of how it works. So let me now just kind of jump over and demonstrate this and kind of show it to you. I do have Revit up and running here, so let me kind of switch over to my Revit session. And I'm going to do 2 things. First of all, I want to kind of show you how you can start a file from scratch and host that out on the internet to kind of create your central model and then invite people to that. But then I'm going to open up a model that's already been created to kind of show you some changes and things that we can do in there. So first of all, let me just kind of show you how you would start it. So I'm just going to start a new file from scratch. I'll just use the architectural template, the out-of-the-box template in here, and just start a brand new file from scratch. And once this gets opened, if I was working on trying to create a central file locally and just inside of my office, I would typically go up to the Collaborate tab and initiate and turn on work sharing. Once you install the tools for collaboration for Revit, it gives you some new buttons in here, and the main one is the Collaborate button. And so this is basically how I begin the process of sharing this model out in the cloud. So I'm going to start the Collaborate button. When I do, it's going to tell me that we do need to save the model first. So I'm going to go ahead and save it. So it has to have a saved name, and I'll just call it maybe project, if I can type, project for, I'll just do C for our collaboration for Revit. So I'm making saving this new file. There's nothing in it, but just saving it, and once it saves, then it will allow me to turn this on and create work sharing. And so the difference is this new dialog box will allow me to either collaborate within my own network. If I did this option, it would create my central file locally on my wherever I wanted to put it on my server, locally there. But I'm trying to collaborate in the cloud, so I'm going to change it and pick on Collaborate using 360. And once I do that, it begins the process of turning on work sharing. It's also enabling all the work sharing sets in there. Well, I need to pick my project. I'm going to pick my project that I want to go to. So I'm going to initiate this. It's going to start turning on work sharing. It's going to create the default work sets just like it does locally when you turn on work sharing, and then it's going to upload the model and then save a model down to a local cache copy and actually open up the local cache copy. So it does a lot of things here, but this is basically just setting it up in there to kind of allow you to start sharing this out in the cloud. So it's pretty easy to set up. You just tell it that you want to turn on the collaboration and then accept the defaults and tell it which project you want to go to, and then you're good to go. Once it is set up, another tool that this gives you once it gets going here, and I think this webinar is kind of slowing down my internet just a little bit, so it's taking a little bit longer than what it normally does, but it should come in here in just a second. Come on. While that's saving, let me just kind of continue talking about some other things that it's doing back here. Over here on the, and now it's about done. Over here on the right, you can see the Communicator palette. I'll talk more about this in just a second. This is that communication tool that we can communicate back and forth with our project members and see who's in our project working on it and things like that. It also gives me a tool up here at the top that will allow me to manage my models up here, and that's where I'm fixing to go just to show you the models that I've got on my site. And this manage models will allow me to do a couple things. I can either download them locally, or I can delete them or copy them or rename them, things like that in there. There we go. So everything's saved now. So everything's synchronized, everything's saved. So it's finished. So now I'm in basically my local copy. And now when I synchronize up here, it will be synchronizing with the project that's out in the cloud. Just to kind of show you my models that I've got in here. If I pick on Manage A360 Models, it will open up and I'll have to. It will show me what models I have out there. I've got different projects set up for me, so I'm going to go into the project that I saved this to. And then inside of this project, I can see the project that I just made, that project for C4R is right there. That's the one I just uploaded, but I also have an architectural model, I've got a furniture model, an MEP model, and a structural model. And from here, you can see that, the last time that these have been saved or are synchronized, you can see the dates in there. I can also choose to, like I said, rename this, or I can relinquish anything that I've got checked out for these and kind of relinquish the rights to the items I've got checked out. We can do some version viewing as far as going back in history and seeing previous versions of it, or we can delete the the model altogether. So it's just a way we can kind of see what models we've got in our project and kind of manage that. So again, I just kind of wanted to show you how we start a project from scratch. From here, I'm going to kind of get out of this and go back and just open up a file now that's already out there, and open up my local copy. So to begin this process, I will go to Open, and when I hit on Open, it will open up the dialog box to find my projects. But what it gives me is this shortcut up here called A360. So I'm going to click on this A360 shortcut, and it's going to go out to the internet and see what projects I have out there that's assigned to me. And I'm going to open up my medical project, and I can see all my projects there. There's the one I just created, but I'm going to go ahead and open up the architectural model and just kind of open up that. So what it's going to do in the background, again, it's going to open it up, but it's checking to see what my local cache copy has in it, and it's checking to see what's been changed and just downloading the changed version of this. So it does kind of optimize the opening. It does take a second, like I said, I'm not going to lie to you, because it is downloading stuff from the internet and it's dependent on your internet speed. But if you got a fairly good internet speed, it should be fairly quick as far as opening up these models and working on them. Once you get them open, it's just like working on a local copy. There's not any kind of speed difference at all once they're open. It's just the opening and synchronizing that may be a little bit longer in there. So I think now it's opening. So this is a small medical office building is what this project is. And so there's quite a few views in here. As far as the size of this, I think it's around just under, I'll have to go back and check. I think it's just under 100 megs as far as the size of this project. So it's not super big, but again, it's a good size model in there. So again, now I'm in my local copy, and I can work just like normal. I can go to these different views, I can zoom out, I can do anything I want to inside this local model. If I do open up the work set dialog box, I will be able to see that there are some work sets created in here. No, I'm sorry, there's just the two default ones there, but we could create additional work sets if we wanted to. But now it's just working just like a normal standard central file model that I'm working in through a local copy in there. The other thing that I've got in here are my links. Let me just kind of go to my managed links section in here and just kind of show you, because I do have links in here, but the links I've got in here are coming in off of the internet. And this is huge. So let me just go to manage links and show you this. So these links that I've got in there, I've got a furniture model, I've got a MEP model, and structural model, and actually I'm not sure why I did this twice. I could probably unload or remove these ones that are coming off my C drive, but the only ones that are loaded are coming from the A360 site. So what that means is if you have an MEP engineer that's working on this project and they synchronize their project to the cloud, as soon as they do that, I can simply reload or reopen my project, and it's going to see that new version of their model and download it and use that model. So it's going to save you tons of time, so you don't have to figure out a way with an FTP site or whatever to get the files back and forth from engineers. But also, you may be working on a file that's a week old if you're not using this product, whereas here you're working on the latest and greatest model and seeing their latest and greatest version of the model. So working with links in there is excellent as far as putting links out there that people can use. As far as the communicator over here, like I said, I'm the only one it looks like that's actually in this project right now. I've got the green dot beside my name. I've got my other two team members are not actually in the project, so they're not green right now. But in here, I can kind of see that. If I go to the next tab up here, I can see my contacts in here as far as frequent people that I've contacted and click on their names. If I click on their name, it will give me some information about them, and I can start a chat session or send them a message. So here's just a history of a message that I've sent one of my employees about this project and stuff. And so you can kind of see this chat session. So you can you got the chat window down here. You can type anything you want and chat back and forth and have this chat window specifically for your project. You can also do a screen capture, so if you wanted to talk about a specific point about your project, I can tell it that we want to do a screen capture, and it will allow me to basically just draw a box around I'll just draw a box around this area right here, and something I want to talk about in this area right there, I can capture that, and basically we'll put it over here, and then I can send that to him so he can, or say something about it, but he can see that capture that I've got there. So it's pretty nice being able to capture those screen images. And then the last part of this is actually the history of the syncs. So you can see who's the last time I synced it. It looks like I'm the only one that synced it in here. But you can see that every time I synced it, it was completed. And you can also, if somebody was syncing right now, it would show the status that they are syncing right now, and it would tell you when the sync is complete. So anyway, basically, like I said, it works just like work sharing that you're maybe used to using on your own server, but it's just putting that model out in the cloud so that you can share this information and work on live information with everybody. The only other thing that's in here is that it really adds is this views for 360. If I pick on this, this will actually tie back to Team. So these are the views that I've got out there on my Team web portal. That people can see out there. So when I pick on this, it's going out there looking to see what I've got on my team site and refreshing this. So I've got all these different views available. All these different views available out there on my team site that people can see, or I can pick and choose which views I want people to see in there. So I've got all these sheets listed here, and I've got some of the 3D models listed there, and just some maybe just the overall floor plan is listed there as well. But this is, again, going back to the team web portal as far as the data portion in that web portal that people can click on and see these Revit files. So you can kind of pick and choose what you want available out there for people to see. So that's basically it. Like I said, it works fairly well. I think that one of the neatest parts of it is actually being able to link in your consultants' models from the cloud so that you always have the latest and greatest. But in addition to that, it also allows you to work on the same file at the same time with people in different locations. So with that, let me kind of go back to my slideshow and just kind of summarize here. I've talked about two main products. I've talked about A360 Team, and then I've talked about A360 Collaboration for Revit. There's another product out there just simply called A360. And so I kind of want to make sure you kind of understand the difference between these three. The A360 is a free version. Anybody and everybody can have access to A360. Basically, you just create a username and a password, and you can start saving and putting files out there for people to share back and forth. But the difference between A360 and A360 Team is A360 is not project specific. It's just basically like a glorified FTP site that you can put files out there and share. Whereas A360 Team, you can create projects and you can assign people to these projects, and you can upload files specifically for those projects and have them separated out by projects. So as far as the number of projects with A360 Team, it is unlimited. You can create as many as you want to. You can invite as many team members as you want to. They do not have to have anything as far as any credentials or anything entitlements for their account. You just basically send them an email, and they can accept it and join the A360 Team Hub. As far as the contributors, anybody and everything can be contributors. You can assign different rights to people, but if they have the rights to be able to contribute and upload and modify files, then they can do that. You don't have to have any kind of special software or anything like that to install. And then the last product, the Collaboration for Revit, that is simply just the tools that work inside of Revit to allow you to collaborate with people in different locations, basically putting that central file out on the internet. And so there is an install for that, and when you install it, it adds additional tools inside of Revit that you can use to collaborate back and forth with. But just in addition to that, just I want to make sure you understand that when you do purchase Collaboration for Revit, you do also get A360 Team. So you get both products for one, essentially. But one is a web portal that you just are basically communicating back and forth with and sharing files. And the Collaboration for Revit side of it is the actual work sharing tools that will allow you to share it out on the internet. So as far as Collaboration for Revit, it is unlimited as far as the number of projects you can create. It is unlimited as far as the number of team members, but just remember each team member for that will need to have the entitlement, the paid entitlement added to their account before they can start using the tools inside of Revit. So that kind of is kind of a summary there. I hope I didn't go too fast through that, but it's fairly simple
Mike,
as far as the way it works. Yes.
You've actually generated some questions. They came in different parts,
Okay.
so maybe I can go over a couple of them. Because I have them in the order they've come into people, they may not be a good flow the way I present them to you. But one of the questions is, how do you get to the Manage Collaboration panel on the Communicate panel on your Collaborate menu?
Okay. Let me switch back to Revit. I'm not sure if you're talking about this. Read the question again.
How do you get to the quote Manage Collaboration panel and the Communicate panel on your Collaborate menu?
Okay. You have to install the add-in. There is an add-in that you need to install, and the add-in that you installed, it is specifically made for your version of Revit. And what I mean by that, there's a 2015 version and a 2016 version, but there's also a specific version for your builds. And so if you do install like a Service Pack 2, there's a specific Collaboration for Revit install that works with Service Pack 2. So it does need to coincide with those, but once you do install that, it will add this Communicator button on your Collaborate tab, and this Communicator button, let me just kind of close this Communicator, this will turn it back on. So if I click on this, it's going to turn that panel back on, and it will also add, that original button that I had there that said Collaborate was there. It will add that, and it will add these two buttons as well. So it will add all that once you do the install, and the last thing that we'll add on is the actual link in here in the open dialog box to link and go into your A360 account. And I think it also, I think it adds one more thing. If I go into and just start the link Revit command, it will allow me to go into the cloud to bring in, I'm sorry about that. That's my dog. I apologize. It will give you a tool inside the link button here to go out to the cloud to find the files you want to link in. So like I said, I guess you got to install it to get this, but once you install it, you should see it. So that was a long answer for that.
And that same person responded, and you may have already just covered this, said, how do you get them to show? Maybe something's not showing up on, but you did mention they had to have the add-in, so perhaps they have the add-in, but they're not able to see it.
Yeah, and I guess if we want to take this offline afterwards,
okay.
If you're having a specific problem getting it installed, I'll be glad to kind of help you and walk you through and see what's going on there. So maybe it's something that's not installed correctly.
And another question that maybe is because the person asked and said maybe we needed to ask offline, referring to work sharing monitor.
Mm-hmm.
So is this supposed to substitute work sharing monitor is the first question, and then there's a part 2 to it.
Okay. Well, I guess first of all, work sharing monitor really does, I guess, two main things. It's an add-on that you can install for a local situation where you have a local central file and not using the internet. It will basically allow you to monitor who's doing what in there, who's got the model open, and who's synchronizing. It also gives your computer resources in there. With this tool, you really don't need that because the communicator here is kind of taking care of that. So you can see the status of syncs and stuff like that inside of this communicator. So really, the work sharing monitor does not work with the collaboration for Revit. So it's just used if you're trying to set it up locally.
Okay, and I think that you've probably covered both of their questions. So if the person with the question wants to write back, we can do that and follow up with them on email. Oh yes, here's one. The question is, do we need an accelerator on our server?
Okay, a great question. You do not. Basically, because it's just doing the cache copies, it's going to allow you to open it up fairly quickly. And when you synchronize, it's just synchronizing the changes that you've made in there, or the changes since the last time you synchronized. So again, it's kind of got its own built-in accelerator because of that. So I don't have anything installed on mine, and like I said, it's fairly quick as far as saving these out to the internet and working on them.
Okay, here is another question. There's two parts to this question, so I'll give you both of them. The first question is, can you archive communication? And then the second part is, how do you audit or replace models? So to me, these are workflow related questions.
Okay. As far as the first one, can you archive? I think you can. I haven't actually done it. Seems like I saw that though somewhere. I have to check on that as far as archiving this communication string. I think I have seen it somewhere, but honestly, I cannot remember where I saw it, so I'm not going to say I know for sure. I'm going to have to find that out, and if you want to shoot me an email or shoot Fiona an email afterwards, I'll try to look that up and see for sure, and if you can, tell you how you do it. But I don't remember how you do it if you can do it, so I'm not going to know 100%.
And Mike, I was thinking that when you go into your portal, as we call it, your project hub, you can see all of the communication that went on. So far, I have not worked with a client wanting to retrieve it. You know? Yeah. So we'll respond to this person offline, but it's a good question, and I've set up a couple of clients, and they're working pretty smoothly with it. So, you know, we'll respond to that person. I have another question. It's to do with the AutoCAD. Let me find the question. Would I be able to integrate AutoCAD architecture models with Revit models?
A good question. Yes, but there's a big but here. And I think what you're talking about is linking in AutoCAD files and using those as backgrounds or whatever. You can link in those files into this model, but currently there is a limitation as far as putting those AutoCAD files out in the cloud. So the workaround really is to do one of two things. One is to have those files locally, not in the cloud, but have them locally linked into your project, which is not the best situation because you want everybody to have access to that. And so if that's the route you go, you basically have to have everybody have that same file on their local machine or local server that's linked in with the same path. So that's not the best solution. The other solution, the temporary solution, would be to go ahead and create a Revit file and go ahead and link in those AutoCAD files into a Revit file, and then put that Revit file out onto the cloud and have that Revit file linked into your central file. So basically create a dummy file that those AutoCAD files are linked into, and then you're linking in the Revit file. So again, neither one of them's perfect situation, but hopefully one of these days they'll add the ability to bring in AutoCAD files straight from the cloud, but currently you cannot.
Okay, and there was another question, was from much earlier in the presentation. Can you view all linked files in the Revit web portal? Maybe you did answer that just now, but this person did not ask about AutoCAD. They just said, can you view all linked files? Yeah,
you can upload them all in there. I think on my web portal I've got them all linked in there, but just to kind of a clarification, make sure you understand it. What we see in that web portal is not live data. It is stagnant data, which means I can pick and choose what version's out there on the web portal, and I do that through this views option here as far as uploading additional views there. So let me just kind of jump back to my web portal and just kind of make sure you understand. If I go to the data section here inside my web portal, this is team. These are some Revit files here, but you notice that these were last saved. That's one I just made. This architectural one was last saved back in May, and I've synchronized since then as far as using the collaboration for Revit, but I have not uploaded a new model to the web portal since May. And so basically you can pick and choose what you want here, but these files will be linked inside of that. If I open up this architectural file, you'll see the structural and the MEP are in there. They're all linked in there. So yes, you can, but it's not going to be a live model. It's basically whenever you've last uploaded it.
Okay. Looking at the questions, I feel we've answered many of them. There's been a couple of questions about Windows 10 So Mike, I'll respond to what I know, and if you want to add to it, but Autodesk right now does not officially support Windows 10. Windows 10 has only come out very recently, or maybe it's still in the process, but once Microsoft releases Windows 10, then developers can develop their programs for it. So Autodesk's new versions come out in the spring, typically March and April, but right now it's not officially supported on Windows 10. Anything else you want to add, Mike?
No, yeah, it's not officially supported, but does it work? I've seen people get it to work on 10 already, so I think it can work, but it's just not officially supported. I guess I'll say that.
And there's been a couple of questions about pricing, and when I answer those questions, I typically like to let people know there's 3 versions. And Mike, you gave a really good summary. I don't know if you still have that page or not, but A360 is what comes with people's subscription. And that's what we're used to for sharing files and emailing and tracking and that's included with subscription, or it's free. So if you have a client project owner, they can look at Revit files with A360 for free. The A360 team is $120 per person per year, and the A360 Collaboration for Revit is $800 per person per year. And if we look at the top level, the Collaboration for Revit, you might have a typical office where there's, say, 2 architects who are going to do it, maybe a structural engineer, maybe a mechanical engineer. So each of them would spend the $800 so they can all communicate on the project together, the Collaboration for Revit. But it doesn't limit them to how many projects. So we're seeing companies just set up a couple of people in their office based on one particular project. And as they get a hang of it, if they decide to bring on more projects, it doesn't change their yearly cost. They just get other team members to get the Collaboration for Revit account, and then they can work on it. So that's the pricing of it, and you can get it directly from us, Applied Software, Autodesk reseller, and we can also give you support to get set up. It's really pretty straightforward, but I'll go quiet for a minute, look at the questions. Mike, is there anything you can think of as we move towards wrapping this up?
Yeah, I guess the biggest thing is getting it set up. We've got a lot of questions, people trying to set up, especially the trial, if they want to do the trial, the 30-day trial. It's basically, there's a couple steps in there as far as getting it set up. You've got to basically ask for the 30-day trial, and once you ask for it, Autodesk has got to actually add it to your account, to your Autodesk account. And so I've seen that take anywhere between 1 and 3 days for them to actually add it to your account. So in the meantime, it's not going to work. And so if you're trying to get this set up and use a 30-day trial, just be patient. It will be added to your account. You can go to your Autodesk user account and see what entitlements you have, and once you see it listed there, it should be working. But you do need to install the plugin for Revit as well, and we can again help you with those links if you don't have it as far as where to get those plugins. But just also those plugins need to match your version of Revit, because depending on your version of Revit and what service pack you have, there's different plugins, and so you need to make sure you have the right plug-in to match your service pack that you're using. And
Mike, there's a couple of questions from one person, and I think we'll take these offline, but here's one I think is a pretty good general question. Looking at different team members, so they make reference to MEP and imagine, I suppose, architect or structure. Can all of them look together at the same time at the models?
Yes, they can all.
Collaboration.
Through the Revit Collaboration for Revit, yes. I mean, basically, they're all opening up their local copies, and so they can see everybody's model in there. If they won't see a live change, in other words, if I'm sitting there moving a wall, they're not going to see that wall moving on their screen. But when I synchronize and save my changes to the cloud, once they synchronize, they will see my changes as far as that wall being moved. And so it's not going to be seeing live things moving back and forth, but as soon as you synchronize, you'll see those changes.
And I would say, Mike, from yours and my Applied Software experience, because you can see it as live as you save it, I mean, you could be saving every hour, every half hour. We found that the project teams are the most successful are ones that have a good management structure, and they have dedicated times at which they're going to save, back to the central model. And so that they don't find they're tripping over one another when somebody wasn't ready. And I think you mentioned the calendar and also the chat, so that I'm an architect and I'm a mechanical engineer and I've got a question impact structure. I initiate a chat and everybody can see it and respond versus sending emails. We've seen a lot of workflow improvement in that manner too.
Yes.
I think the calendar is great. Instead of, again, on somebody's Outlook or wherever, based on the project, you can put your schedules and your milestones. And so these are some other benefits we've seen people using.
I agree.
So we said that our presentation would go to the bottom of the hour, so we've got maybe 10 minutes. I think everybody's happy to get extra time back if we come to an end. I don't have any more new questions. I have one person with about 4 questions, so we'll get to him offline. So as I say, raise your hand, send in another question if you've got anything. If not, yes, Mike, thank you. I wanted you to show people. First of all, there's our contact information. I'm Fiona Pratt. There's my phone number and email. And there's 3 upcoming events in Delaware, BIM and Beer, in Texas, BIM and Beer, and then an architectural executive roundtable in Tampa, Florida. Applied Software also works with local people with AIA presentations, CSI, other different industry groups. And so, please reach out to us and we look forward to helping you with anything. Doesn't look like there's any more questions. Anything else you have, Mike, before we wrap it up?
No, that's it.
Good. Our upcoming webinars.
Yeah, upcoming webinars, kind of similar to what we're doing today. We got one scheduled in August, September, and 2 in September. So you can check our website to find the links to sign up for those. And this one, as well as today, it is being recorded, and you can go back and review this off our YouTube channel. If you want to search for Live Lab Learning, you should be able to find it.
Right. So I thank everybody for joining us. It's Applied Software Platinum Autodesk reseller based out of Atlanta, covering a very large geography. And hope you all have a great day, and we appreciate the opportunity to show you A360 Collaboration for Revit. Thank you.